What if I told you that the most powerful version of you is not something you have to find, but something you have to uncover? That beneath your habits, beneath your routines, beneath your excuses and your history, there is a version of you that is sharper, stronger, more disciplined, more focused, a version you would respect if you met them today. What if that version isn't far away at all? What if the only thing standing between who you are and who you could become is the identity you keep repeating? Not the world, not lack of time, not motivation. Identity. Imagine this for a moment. It is the final night of this year. The world is celebrating. Fireworks, lights, countdowns. People post their progress. New me, transformation year, growth journey. Some changed everything. Some became disciplined and unshakable. Some finally broke their addiction to comfort. Some rewired their mind and rebuilt their life. Now imagine yourself standing there, watching that world. Do you stand tall, grateful, proud, evolved, or do you feel the quiet sting that nothing changed? Not because you didn't dream, but because you didn't become. Let that hit you. Years don't change us. Dates don't transform us. Motivation does not rebuild identity. We change only when we change. You've seen it. Every January, giant plans are made, and by February, old patterns return like gravity. Not because plans are weak, but because the person following them hasn't changed. You can paste a quote on your wall. You can set 3 alarms. You can buy a new journal. You can join a gym. You can pray for motivation. But if your identity remains the same, your life will remain the same. The truth most people never hear is this. The truth most people never hear is this. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your identity. And this is why years pass without real evolution. You've changed your environment. You've changed your routines. You've changed your ambitions even. But you haven't changed you. The identity that overeats. The identity that scrolls. The identity that postpones. The identity that dreams more than it builds. And if that identity stays alive, it will quietly control every decision you make. You will want success, but sabotage it. You will want discipline, but dodge it. You will want growth, but stay still. Because the mind obeys identity, not intention. You are not struggling with goals. You are struggling with self-image. You're not lazy. You're loyal to who you used to be. You're not inconsistent. You're consistent with an older version of you. Read that again. You're not failing. You're simply aligned with a past identity. That's why you keep restarting. That's why progress slips. That's why the same year repeats. Identity is a loop, and you've lived inside it for years. But here is where things shift. Because once you see the pattern, you no longer have to be controlled by it. You can rewrite identity. You can reinvent self-perception. You can reshape your internal blueprint until action becomes automatic. But before we rebuild, we must confront a truth. Time will not wait for you to evolve. Potential does not pause. Comfort will not slow down consequence. Every month that passes with the wrong identity steals a month from the life you could have lived. And that is why reinvention cannot be a someday decision. If you don't reinvent yourself this year, you will repeat this year next year. Imagine 2 versions of you. 1 year from now, version A is the same. Same habits, same hesitation, same self-talk, same results. Version B reads daily, trains with discipline, controls impulses, calm mind, focused identity, elevated standards. Someone your younger self would look at with disbelief. Which one do you become? It is not destiny. It is not luck. It is identity. And identity is chosen, not stumbled into. This is not a video about motivation. Motivation burns quickly. Identity lives longer. This is a construction, brick by brick, of a new self. You will not try to change. You will become the person who changes. You will not chase discipline. You will embody it. You will not fight laziness. You will outgrow it. Because transformation is not a fight. It is a replacement. Old identity dissolves. New identity takes the throne. And once a new identity takes control, habits follow it without negotiation. Not forced, not heavy, natural. The rest of the world will tell you to set goals. This script will teach you to set identity. Because when identity changes, life changes with it effortlessly. And now that you understand the root of why you haven't evolved yet, we step into the next truth: the cost of waiting, the pain of time, the danger of delay, the silent decay of potential. Because if identity is the foundation, then urgency is the ignition. And you're about to understand why this year is the line you can't afford to cross untransformed. You feel it, don't you? That subtle fear that another year could slip through your fingers. That quiet voice that whispers, "What if nothing changes?" That heaviness in your chest when you realize time doesn't wait, it erodes. Because here is the truth most people refuse to look at. Life doesn't get better by accident. You don't wake up one morning magically disciplined. No calendar year arrives carrying a new version of you. Growth doesn't happen with time. Growth happens with transformation. And transformation begins when you understand urgency, not pressure, not anxiety. Urgency, the awareness that tomorrow isn't guaranteed, that potential is perishable, that the window to evolve is open only for a while before it closes again. Look at your past. There were years that could have changed everything, but didn't, because you waited, because you said later, because you believed the future would give you more opportunity than the present. But the future is just an unbuilt version of today. If you don't act now, nothing changes later. You do not need more time. You need more ownership. You don't need motivation. You need identity ignition. Because when the identity changes, behavior doesn't have to be forced. It becomes instinct. The next 90 days could be the beginning of a metamorphosis that would shock your future self. Not a lifestyle change, a self-change, not improvement, reinvention. And reinvention does not begin with a plan. It begins with elimination. Before a seed grows, the soil must be cleared. Before a house rises, the land must be leveled. Before a life transforms, the old identity must be stripped away. The first 30 days are not about adding habits. They are about removing the ones suffocating you. Imagine uninstalling the outdated version of yourself. The scrolling, the dopamine loops, the self-negotiation, the late-night mind fog, the excuses disguised as logic, the environment designed for distraction rather than greatness. Reinvention doesn't start with "become better." Reinvention begins with "remove what keeps me the same." Because you are not becoming someone new, you are returning to the person you were always capable of being. Once the noise is deleted, the second phase emerges, where you plant new identity behaviors like seeds. Not 10 habits, not 20, just 3. 3 core habits practiced daily can rewire a whole identity. A focused mind, a trained body, a disciplined day. These are not habits, they are identity anchors. You don't try to be disciplined. Discipline becomes who you are. You don't hope to be consistent. Consistency becomes your nature. This is how a human being transforms quietly, day after day, like water carving stone, not sudden, but unstoppable. Then comes the third month, the month no one talks about, because it's not exciting. It's structural. Environment upgrade. Most people build habits inside an environment designed to destroy them. They want to wake early, but the phone sleeps beside them. They want to read, but the book is hidden under the desk. They want to do deep work, yet workspace triggers distraction, not focus. They want to grow, but their circle lives like yesterday. You cannot build a future while standing in the architecture of your past, so the environment must adapt to the identity. The room must reflect discipline. The desk must demand focus. The phone must lose its power. The home screen must become a tool, not a trap. The people around you must vibrate differently. Once environment shifts, identity breathes. Reinvention becomes less effort and more gravity. Habits are pulled, not pushed. But we don't stop there, because blueprints and habits alone don't guarantee evolution. You could build habits for weeks and still fall. You could create systems and still break. You could feel powerful until one weekday pulls you back. Which is why identity needs reinforcement frameworks, mental models that keep evolution alive when motivation dies. This is where transformation becomes science. When you begin asking different questions, instead of "how do I stay disciplined?" you ask, "what would a disciplined person do right now?" Because identity is not trying, identity is being. Instead of How do I make big changes fast? You ask, what 1% shift can I make today that compounds over a year? Because transformation is not intensity, transformation is accumulation. Instead of, I hope I can stick to my habits, you declare, these are my standards, this is who I am now. Because growth is not about hitting goals, growth is about raising the floor you stand on. And once a week, you sit with yourself, not scrolling, not distracting, not hiding. You look your identity in the eye and ask, where did I lead myself forward? Where did I betray myself? What does next week demand of me? This is how a human being evolves consciously, not accidentally. But let me prepare you. This evolution is not gentle. You will feel the pull of your past self. You will feel the temptation of comfort. You will feel resistance, fatigue, doubt. Your mind will miss old pleasure. Your body will crave old pattern. Your environment will remind you of yesterday. And in that moment, you will think you are failing, when in reality, you are shedding. Reinvention is not calm, it is disruption. It is identity death. It is peeling away the familiar, even when it hurts. And you will fight yourself more than the world, because the past identity does not want to die quietly. But identity death is identity birth. A new self cannot emerge while the old one still survives. This is where many quit, not because they're weak, but because transformation feels like loss. Loss of old habits, loss of old comfort, loss of old environment, loss of old people. Reinvention demands sacrifice, and sacrifice feels like pain before it feels like freedom. But if you hold through that fire, everything changes. And we are about to enter the fire, the emotional war of becoming someone new. The next stretch of the script dives deeper into this battlefield. Relapse, resistance, identity withdrawal, loneliness, disruption, rebirth. Because becoming unrecognizable doesn't happen cleanly. It happens violently, beautifully, inevitably, like a storm breaking into sunlight. And now we walk into the part that breaks most people. Not because they aren't capable, but because no one ever warned them that becoming a new person feels like losing yourself first. You will begin to detach from an identity you've lived with for years. The version of you that knew comfort, dopamine, delay, distraction. The version that survived, but never rose. And that version won't die quietly. It will whisper, relax. You've done enough. Just one day off won't hurt. You deserve a break. You can start again tomorrow. Why are you trying so hard? These voices are not weaknesses. They are echoes of who you used to be. Identity tries to stay alive, even when it no longer serves you. There will be mornings where your bed feels heavier than your future. Nights where your phone feels more comforting than your purpose. Moments where your progress feels too slow to matter. Thoughts that tell you you're pretending, not transforming. But listen carefully. Suffering is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that change is happening. You are breaking neural patterns, rewiring habits, retraining impulses, and your brain is fighting to maintain familiarity. Discomfort is the sound of identity shifting. You're not going backwards, you're crossing through resistance. And inside that resistance, something sacred happens. There will be a day, you won't know exactly which, when the old voice gets quieter and a new one appears. A voice that says, get up. We don't negotiate with weakness. We move even when we don't feel like it. This is who we are now. On that day, you'll realize something powerful. Discipline isn't something you force anymore. It is something you are. Not effort, identity, not pressure, instinct. This is where transformation becomes dangerous. Not for you, for your limits. Because momentum arrives quietly. One good day becomes two. Two become five. Five become a week. A week becomes a streak. A streak becomes a lifestyle. And soon, you look at yourself with disbelief. I used to struggle with it. Now it's normal. You won't remember the exact day shift happened. You will only know that you are no longer the person you used to be. Your thoughts change. Your decisions sharpen. Your self-respect grows. You start choosing long-term over short-term, growth over pleasure, focus over distraction, future over impulse. And that's when life begins to respond differently. People notice something changed. An energy, a seriousness, a stability, a presence they didn't see before. Some will admire it. Some will distance themselves from it. Some will feel threatened by it. Because growth exposes those who refused to grow. You will lose people. not by conflict, but by elevation. You are climbing, they are standing still. Not everyone follows altitude. You will walk alone at times. You will doubt the path. You will fight internal storms. But loneliness during growth is not emptiness. It is space being prepared for new alignment. The right people arrive once you rise high enough to meet them. Identity attracts identity. Once you cross this emotional battlefield, once you stop quitting, stop restarting, stop negotiating, you enter the rare space where your life moves differently. But to keep rising long-term, you need something most people ignore: accountability. Because even the strongest identity has weak days. Even the most disciplined mind needs structure. Even the most evolved self needs measurement. Motivation may start the engine, but accountability keeps the wheels turning long after motivation fades. So you build systems, not just habits. You create a contract with yourself, visible, tangible, undeniable. You track your progress, visually, deeply, honestly. You share your goals with someone who expects updates, not encouragement, but proof. You mark every day you show up. A streak, a chain, an unbroken record. And suddenly, you're being held to a higher standard than your feelings. You no longer rely on willpower. Your systems carry you. Your accountability catches you when identity wavers. Your momentum becomes self-propelling. Growth no longer feels like climbing. It feels like being pulled forward. But we are not done, because reinvention does not peak in 90 days. If the first 90 days change your behavior, the next 9 months change your destiny. Because a transformed day repeats, a transformed month compounds, a transformed year becomes a new life. And now we zoom out beyond habits and accountability into the full vision, the 12-month metamorphosis, where you meet a version of yourself you have never seen before. A version you might not even believe exists yet, but they exist. They are waiting for you, a year away. Imagine this: you commit, you persist, you push through the first 90 days. You delete distractions, build identity habits, shape your environment, create accountability systems, and suddenly, your life begins to move differently. Not instantly, not dramatically, but noticeably. The world hasn't changed, you have. Now watch what happens when that transformation is stretched over 12 months. This is where reinvention stops being effort and becomes existence. Month 1 to 3, you fight yourself. You negotiate with the old identity. You wake up early some days, fail others. You journal, relapse, restart. You feel resistance like weight strapped to your chest, but you move anyway. You are not fast, you are not perfect, but you are forward. Month 4 to 6, something shifts. Habits become routine. Discipline becomes familiar. Scrolling feels uncomfortable. Laziness feels out of character. Junk dopamine feels cheap because you've tasted purpose. Your mind feels clearer. Your body feels lighter. You stand straighter. You don't need motivation to act. Momentum moves you. Then month 7 to 9, the outside catches up with the inside. Productivity rises. Focus sharpens. People comment. You've changed. Opportunities appear like reflections of your new identity. Your environment no longer shapes you. You shape it. Your habits no longer drag you. They carry you. Your identity no longer whispers. It commands. You think faster. You decide cleaner. You recover quicker. You look at your old life like a place you once lived, not a place you belong. Month 10 to 12, this is metamorphosis. You wake up one day and something feels different. Not excitement, not motivation, not euphoria. Calm. The kind of calm that comes from finally trusting yourself. You no longer ask, "Can I stay consistent?" You know the answer. You do not hope, you execute. You do not plan, you perform. You do not try, you are. Identity has absorbed discipline, like muscle absorbs training. You are the type of person who follows through. You are the type of person who builds. You are the type of person who grows without applause. And then you look back, and the realization hits like thunder. You didn't just change your habits, you changed your character. Your future is no longer a question, it is a direction. Life stops happening to you. You start happening to life. All because 1 year ago, you decided to stop negotiating with your potential. All because you dismantled the old identity and built a new one in its place. But this script, this transformation, this path, is worthless unless one thing happens now. A decision. Not motivation, not excitement, not hype. Decision. Because without a decision, this video becomes entertainment. And you don't need entertainment, You need evolution. So here is the question your future is waiting for. Do you reinvent yourself now? Or do you repeat yourself again? Because 1 year will pass regardless. The only difference is who you become in it. You know what staying the same feels like. You've lived that chapter. You know the weight of unrealized potential. You've carried it for years. But you also know, somewhere inside, that you were built for more. Maybe you feel it in your chest. Maybe you feel it in your bones. Maybe you hear it like a pulse, a quiet voice saying, "This year doesn't have to be a repeat." You can leave behind the version of you that settles, delays, scrolls, escapes, postpones. You can become the version that acts, commits, executes, transforms. Transformation isn't far away. It's one decision away. Right now, this moment. What looks like a small decision today will be the reason you walk into the next year unrecognizable, not improved, evolved, not inspired, rebuilt, not motivated, transformed. Your future self is waiting. They are stronger, sharper, more powerful than the one reading this, and they are asking you for one thing. Choose me. Not tomorrow, not next month, not when you feel ready. Now, because time is moving, and potential is expiring, and your identity is calling. Reinvent yourself before this year leaves you behind.